Hey there. I hope you're having a great day. I'm Jim Munchback, and this is Personal Finance. Welcome back to another live stream lecture for personal finance at the University of Houston at the Bauer College of Business. We should be going live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and not X. Still not going live on X. We will be doing that soon. This is week number 6, and week number 6 is really part 2 of the assignment we started last week called the Credit Crush assignment. And yes, last week we did this setup for the assignment. So it's 10 a.m. We're a little bit early, and I'm going to just do a couple of uh, reviews while we're going. I think we've already pretty much uh, talked about the Credit Crush assignment big idea. Hopefully we did. I know we did, but let me just remind you that the big idea of Credit Crush assignment is for you to understand the cost of credit and how the credit card companies and credit companies in general can make you a victim of their product. And it is a product, it's not a privilege. Credit is a product, and they use all the tools, they being the credit industry, they use all of the tools at their disposal to target you. So that's really the big idea, the desired outcomes. I just want you to learn how to protect yourself against their tools. And so you updated some data cards in your RightCapital financial plan, including a mortgage. You went out and did some research. Hopefully, those of you who I've created, you did a great job. Uh, you got a car loan, credit card, debt of at least $10,000. You did a little review of your debt management strategies just to get familiar with it. This week, you're going to finish that assignment. This week's assignment should be really straightforward and really easy. If you spent a few minutes last week familiarizing yourself with the tools in RightCapital. So one thing I wanted to do is just check my little playground before we get started. It's working. Yes. Last week I pushed these buttons and nothing was working. This week I shut down all my apps and restarted my computer before going live. But one thing that I did this week that I didn't do last week is I updated to what is it? Ta Tacoma 26 on my MacBook right there, that MacBook over there. Have you guys done that yet? If you've got a Mac, have you updated to the most recent operating system on your Mac? It's got some bugs. I'm not totally thrilled. It's different. It's got liquid glass. So anyway, that's all just stuff. But anyway, we've got the iPad going here. If you guys will look in the comments below, you should see whether you're watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, you should see a link, and the link will go uh, to this post. This is just the post that I'm using. I hope it's accurate. This is so similar to last week's assignment because last week we did the setup. So one thing I am going to make sure I do this week, as you may recall, a couple of students let me know that I forgot. I started to talk about the class collaboration, the secret class collaboration, so I forgot to actually nail one down last week. So we're going to do that right pretty much right now. It's about 10:04 a.m. I usually wait, well, I used to wait until 10:05 a.m. because we would run a Zoom meeting at the same time we did the live stream. This semester, for the first time, I think the first time, I've stopped running the Zoom meeting because it was just very few students would show up in Zoom. So my uh, research proved that the asynchronous course, the online on demand aspects of this asynchronous course led me to be very certain that attending a timed Zoom meeting was not most students' preference. So there you have it. Okay, so let me talk about uh, this week's secret class collaboration before I even get into the assignment. Uh, so, first of all, yes, if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, go ahead and do that. One thing I want to mention real quick is some of you guys are going to one day want to reach out to me and ask for a referral, a reference for your grad school or whatever. And in the past, I've been very, very generous to do that. But I've recently received some requests from students who they never connected with me on LinkedIn. And I don't really know them. So if you're one of those students who reached out after 5 years of being in my course and we never connected outside of the course in any way, shape, or form, well, I'm just going to have to say, I don't think we have a relationship that gives me the insights to know about you in order to give an honest reference. So, FYI, I would encourage you to connect with me. I want to stay connected with every student that ever takes this course in some way. Someday, somewhere down the road, you may need some help, financial advice, and I want you to think of me as a resource. I'm always happy to give you free advice. If I can help in any way, we can jump on a quick Zoom meeting. We can have a conversation by text, by phone, whatever. I'm happy to do that always. But let's stay in touch. LinkedIn is my favorite social media platform, so that's what I would encourage you to do. And as you know, this lecture and all lectures for this semester are in, if you go to uhplaylist.com, that's where they're at. So check that out. And don't forget, if you're going to stay connected, if you like YouTube, if you like to watch videos, stay connected with me on the channel at Jim Munchback. Hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. Like the video. That doesn't cost anything either, and it really helps the channel. I'm going to be continuing to create content for you on this same channel. So FYI, this is, again, my last semester to teach at the University of Houston before I take a 1 year sabbatical. And what I'm going to be working on in that during that 1 year sabbatical may interest you. So check out the channel, stay tuned, and you'll get more information. And again, that's at Jim Munchback, and Munchback has an H on the end. That's my YouTube channel, and that's where I'll be posting everything I post in the future. Okay, let's get started. So here is, it's on the screen. It's right there. It's in the post. It's not that big of a secret for this week's secret class collaboration. It is why be debt free? The whole purpose of the Credit Crush assignment is to teach you. Well, first of all, I want you to experience what I experienced with my wife, Connie. I'm going to click on this little change scenes here real quick. And this is my best friend, Connie, my wife, my lovely wife. And she is the one back in the day when we first got married and I was making pretty good money. She's the one that was paying the credit cards back in the day when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, long before the internet, way before AI, before Google existed. Believe it or not, there was a time way long ago when you actually wrote checks. You did not have an app on your phone because there was no such thing as a mobile phone, a cell phone. Those things did not exist. I'm telling you, way back in the day, things were very, very different. And back in the day, when my beloved wife was writing the checks, I was making the money and she was writing the checks, paying the bills, and I was going to the ATM machine. We did have those. An ATM machine is where you could go put your card in and collect cash, and you didn't have a bank app, remember, to check your balances. So the only way you knew your balance in your checking account was to take the canceled checks that the bank mailed you with snail mail. And they would mail you those checks, and you would sit down and you would balance your checkbook. your checking account. You would have to look at the checks that cleared the bank, and then you had to look at the checks that you'd written that had not yet cleared the check, and you had to subtract the amount of those checks from your balance, and then you would know what your actual balance was, how much money you had in your account. Very different than what you do today. But back in the day, when Connie was doing that, I was taking out cash and not telling her, and she would end up writing checks and getting insufficient funds, having checks returned. That was bad because they always charged a fee. Still, they do that now too. Uh, but what would also happen is when you had a late payment on a credit account, they would often, which they still do, raise your interest rate. And they may even raise your minimum payment. Now, the minimum payment is something I want you guys to understand, because one thing you're going to do this week is when you jump into, and you did it last week too, and I'll talk more about it, but I want you to see how paying the minimum payment and letting that interest continue to be added every month to your account balance and paying the minimum payment, how that ultimately results in your account balance going up, 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 and up. That's the whole point of the Credit Crush assignment. But my dear wife is the one who helped me understand how ridiculous this whole racket was with credit and how we were going deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. And so that's where this assignment comes from. So the again, the excuse me, the secret class collaboration comment that I want you to talk about is being debt free. Do you, how do you feel about being debt free? I want you to think about that. I want you to post a comment, grab the screenshot, just like every other secret class collaboration. It proves to me that you watched this lecture, which you're required to do. So why be debt free? What do you think about being debt free? I get lots of input from students who tell me that debt is a good thing, and it is a good thing. It is a tool and it can be used in a good way. So, again, back to my wife, Connie, I want to remind you that my wife, Connie, is one who really influenced me over the years with how to manage money. And my wife, Connie, we owned this house that I'm sitting in right here in this is I'm actually sitting in uh, a studio that I built so that I could teach this course. I'm sitting in our house right now. It's actually not even our house. This is actually part of the garage that I converted to a studio. It's got foam insulation and air conditioning, and it's quiet and it's away from the house, and it's one of my favorite places to work. I call it my playground, and that's what you're looking at. But this house that I'm sitting in Friendswood, Texas, there was a time when we had a mortgage on this house, and being an investment advisor, being an expert in investing and knowing how to make money, we owed a couple $100,000. I think at the time it was 285,000. I can't remember for sure. No, it couldn't have been 285 because we bought this house for $162,500, and they included the refrigerator. Back then in 2000, July of 2000, when we bought this house, my wife and I, we bought as much house as we felt like we could afford. And of course, the cost of housing has gone up, up, up. And anyway, this is a great house. This is our house. I like this house. I love this house. It's a very, very normal house. We live on Sunset Drive, and this street in Friendswood, if you drive up and down this street, you will see multi-million-dollar houses. You will see estates. You will see a house or two that has a helicopter pad. That's not our house. Our house is very normal. It's about 2,400 square feet, but I like the house. And when we bought this house, we used a mortgage, a 30-year mortgage. And then we changed that mortgage to a 15-year mortgage. But the day came, uh, I worked I did a little outside work, a little, what do you call it when you do an outside gig, a little hustle. I was an independent claims adjuster because that's what I did for State Farm before I became an agent. Anyway, I worked Hurricane Katrina. I made a lot of money in about 6 months. I made enough money to pay off our house. And my wife, I mean, we had the money sitting in the checking account and I was going to invest it. And my wife, Connie, this beautiful person you're seeing on the screen, she wanted to pay off the mortgage. And I was like, why would we do that? I can invest it. We were actually at the time, I believe our mortgage was 3.85%. And as a financial, an investment advisor, I would say, why would you pay off a loan that's only 3.85% when in reality, if you're good at investing, you can make an 8% return, a 10% return, depending on the market, depending on your luck a little bit, but mostly depending on your skill and your asset allocation and some of the other investment strategies that you're going to learn in the next few weeks. Those were all reasons to me to not be debt free. Okay, so this is my story. Connie, my wife, she said, Jim, I feel like being debt free is important and it's something that is meaningful to me and it's something that I want. And so normally, Connie lets me make all the financial decisions, at least the important ones. Uh, because I proved to her over the years after we were buried in debt that I was kind of more like her. I wanted to be smart with the way I managed money, but this didn't seem smart to me. And so I had to really think about it. And what I ended up doing is because I love my wife and I wanted to respect her and show her that I cared about what she thought, how she felt, I decided to go ahead and pay off our mortgage. And I did that. We did that back in, it would have been, look up Hurricane Katrina. It would have been shortly after that. I want to say, I'm not even going to guess when that was, but it was shortly after Hurricane Katrina. And we paid off, we had a mortgage payment that I want to say it was around 1,200 bucks a month. And so we made a deal. The deal was once we paid off the mortgage, I could take that $1,200 a month and I could start investing it. And so I did that. And I used dollar cost averaging, one of my favorite, one of the most powerful investment strategies that is really designed to help you maximize returns and at the same time minimize risk. It's one of the 4 investment strategies that I'm going to teach you. Excuse me. So that's what the deal was. So I was able to do that and it turned out really well. So this week's secret class collaboration is simply how do you feel about being debt free? I just told you our story, how Connie felt very differently than I did. And so that's my story. That's our story. I'm curious though. How do you feel about being debt free? Look, the Credit Crush assignment, you're going to see in just a minute what you're required to do. And you're going to need to do that to get the points that you want in this assignment. But it has nothing to do with the choices and decisions you make in your real life when it comes to managing money. So, in this secret class collaboration about being debt free, what I want you to talk about and talk amongst yourselves and have a conversation and share that screenshot with me that you had that conversation. But I'm just curious how you feel about being debt free. Okay, so that's that. All right, let's jump into the actual assignment here. And this is what you're going to see when you go into your Right Capital financial planning portal. And it's really simple. You should already be very familiar with this because last week, this is what you did. And I want to just remind you about your spending tracker. Are you guys keeping up with that? Hopefully, if you selected a tracker like your bank app, then you're good to go. Um, if you if you're using Excel or anything manual, then my question is, how's that going for you? Because it's a lot more difficult for you to do that uh, if you're doing it manually. Hopefully, you selected something like your bank app or mint.com, or maybe you even decided you like RightCapital and you linked your accounts. Again, please don't send me an email and tell me that you're not comfortable linking your accounts in RightCapital. I don't expect you to do it if you're not comfortable with it. But it does have the same bank level encryption as mint.com, which is the most probably the most popular tool we've ever had in this course as far as tracking your spending. But if you just use one debit card, then with Bank of America, for example, or Chase or whatever, then that's all you really need. And you will be able to gather all of your spending for the entire semester. Don't forget, if you do assignment 12, that's part of the requirements is to prove that. Okay, so I want to talk about really the most important screen. This is the most important screen you're going to do this week. And it's really just a before after. Before you apply your debt strategies, what does it look like in your plan? And then after you apply them, now you'll notice what I'm showing you here is Billy. We talked about Billy last week. I call this my Frankenstein plan. And you can see that the savings amount, just look at that and grab a screenshot, because that's what you're going to do in your own plan. You're going to grab a screenshot from your plan in RightCapital. When you click on those three little dots at the top right, it's going to take you to the debt strategies, and you're going to do what I showed you how to do last week. But this is the most important screenshot of this week's assignment because it shows the before and after. And you'll see that Billy has like 831 million in savings. That's because his plan has a tremendous amount of debt and he's paying the very bare minimum on every payment and he's got lots of accounts. So it's just to illustrate what Connie showed me back in the day when she was writing the checks to the credit card companies. And she showed me that the balances were getting bigger and bigger and bigger every month. And that's when we realized this scam of credit and the minimum payment, how that works against you to get you to end up buried in debt, which is what we were doing. So that was kind of our story. Uh, and getting debt free came years later after we were in a much better place financially than we were in those early years. So, anyway, that's the most important screenshot. And that's really this week's assignment. So there's not much more to say about that. Let me take a look at a preview for next week. Next week's assignment is bargaining and negotiating, and it's a fun assignment. It's one of those assignments, honestly, that came from Dave Ramsey. So Dave Ramsey was we used the Dave Ramsey College Foundations course. They put together this entire curriculum for college students. And in 2012, when I started teaching this course, students would pay $100 to get access to Dave Ramsey's platform, his college curriculum. And then I would teach, and then I would put together assignments. And he had some assignments and yada, yada, yada. But every week you would watch Dave Ramsey. Back in the day when we first started teaching this course, students at the University of Houston would watch Dave Ramsey, and he and his daughter and his team would put together videos to illustrate certain topics in personal finance. And I got kind of tired of watching Dave Ramsey. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's like over and over, semester after semester, it was the same content. They still, to this day, as far as I know, they haven't updated that content. So it gets a little timed. Uh, and it's still being used in this course at the University of Houston by some students or some professors or instructors. I'm not really a professor, by the way. I'm an instructor. I'm an adjunct. So anyway, back to the point. Dave Ramsey, he's funny, right? And it was great the first time through, but after about 10 times, 20 times through watching the same videos. It got kind of old. So I stopped doing it. But there was one week, one session, one lecture that Dave Ramsey gives that is so funny. I could watch it over and over and over. And it was the one on bargaining and negotiating. Dave Ramsey is kind of like me. He loves to bargain and negotiate. So um, that's what next week's assignment and lecture will be about, is bargaining and negotiating. And you may wonder, why in the world would that be part of personal finance? And you're going to learn that next week. So I'm going to try to cut this week short. Uh, well, before I do that, let me just see if there's anything I'm missing. I think I covered everything. I want, you know what this week's secret class collaboration is? It's about being debt free. Uh, let's see, what am I looking at here on the screen? I just hit a button. Oh, yeah, get ready for targeting. So, one of the important lessons about this week's Credit Crush assignment is consumerism. And one of my goals is to help you make wise decisions with your money. And as you learn how to manage debt and credit, it's important for you to understand that you really are a target for credit card companies. And the tools that they have to lure you in to use their credit are, they're the most sophisticated, as sophisticated as any other marketing tools out there. And if you just pay attention, if you just pay attention, you'll notice that you are constantly being marketed to in every way, in every media, in every, it's nonstop. And what that tends to do is put you in a position where you feel like you need something that you want. You don't really need it, but you want it. And the tool, the product that can help you get something that you can't really afford is credit. And you're a target. And that's the whole point of the Credit Crush assignment, is to become more aware of the fact that you're being targeted all the time. But more than that, the point is to be aware of what that will cost you if you don't manage your credit in a way that's wise. And so I hope this lesson, I hope this week's assignment is super helpful for you. It comes from my heart. It comes from my experience with my wife, Connie, and the things that we learned when we were younger about credit and how it works. And it made me very angry when I guess the truth is, to see how stupid I was with credit and how much it was costing my family, uh, to realize I made that mistake, it made me mad. It made me determined to not continue doing it. And so today, I think it's true that I have no debt. I'm sure well, I know I have some balances on my credit cards, but we pay those off every month. And no other debt that I'm aware of. And I would be aware of it because we have no debt. And that's a good feeling. And that's the real outcome that happened from listening to my wife and considering how she felt. Uh, it was a surprise to me. It was when I paid off that mortgage. That was the only debt that we had. And her hope, what she wanted, was to be debt free. And like I said, I didn't think that was a smart move, because it was a lot of money that I could use to invest, or I could pay off the mortgage. And we had a 3.85% mortgage, which was a great mortgage, I thought. Um, but when I did it because, like I said, I love my wife and I wanted her to know that I cared about how she felt and what she wanted, and that I heard her. So I went ahead and paid off the mortgage. And what was surprising to me was what that felt like, to be debt free. I mean, like I said, it seemed like I could use that money, invest it, we could get ahead. But There's something very special about being debt free, not owing anybody anything. There's a certain level of freedom that comes from that. And I would have missed it because I wouldn't have done it if it weren't for Connie. So I want you to think about that again. I've made the secret class collaboration in this lecture very unsecret. So there's no reason you should miss it. Turn it in early. As always, don't forget that extra points you get from turning it in early. Okay, so to be debt free or not to be debt free, that is the question. Okay, I think that's it. I look forward to seeing your assignments, grading your assignments, and I apologize for missing last week's class collaboration, but we got it this week, so get her done. Have a good week, and I'll see you soon. I'm going to go ahead and hit the finish button and end the broadcast.